I think we've done it. I think I did it. Every week I'm like, is it going to work? I don't know if it's going to work. Oh, wait, one more. Now we are for sure here. I'm so happy to see you. It's been so long. We were just talking about summer schedules, and man, I was at your yoga studio many times a week, and now I just can't pull myself away from the grass and the river and the ocean. It must be hard for you.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to just check one more thing as we move along here. There we go. Okay, this way I can monitor us. So good to be here. I'm so glad you're here. So today I've been looking forward to this a lot. Before we get started with mindful meditative media, so good, I want to just address something you and I were talking about. And actually, it's all I've been talking about the past couple weeks, so much so that I'm creating a new webinar around it. What I'm noticing this summer in particular, and maybe it's because of my state of mind, but it does seem to be what people are talking about. I'm on a number of boards and people are pushing things out, or their businesses are pushing things out, and they're like, oh my God, Susan, it's radio silence out there. And I had to share that my experience has been that people they might be on vacation, they might not be on vacation, but they're definitely spending less time looking for those social interactions on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I think people still kind of scroll through. It's kind of like a little piece of candy. But I said, don't worry about that. You just got to be consistent, show up in your integrity, show up with consistency. Don't push too hard, let it flow, but show up consistently, because in September, when it starts to cool down and when the kids are back at school, the floodgates are going to open. So if everybody right now is doing what they need to do, just be there regularly and set up everything, because you don't want to feel overwhelmed in September. Mm-hmm. And you and I were talking about like that too, and about having to be consistent. And this time of the year and always, I feel like email marketing is so head and shoulders above any of the other social media marketing. And I know I talk about this all the time, and it's because you are in control of your list. It's people who have said, yeah, I'd like to hear from you. Keep me informed. And the thing is, if you send emails, I know a lot of people say, oh, I don't want to bother people in their inbox. It's okay. If they don't want to hear from you, they can unsubscribe. But if you're offering great stuff, then they'll keep you on there. They may or may not open it, and you can monitor that. And I'm all about analytics. I'm kind of geeky that way. So you can kind of monitor who's opening what. But show up with consistency on in email marketing. And I wanted to share quickly. Here we go. So for instance, and so people are like, oh, I don't know what to do. Every month I put up just a really brief idea of what kind of emails you might be able to send. And again, I'm doing a webinar, I think in August, and also I'm creating a new lead generator, and it's going to have 10 emails you can make in like 15 minutes, because people have a short attention span. They just want to know what's going on. So my suggestion always, put a brief message, what's the topic, then put a link to some kind of a resource article, and then put a call to action. I'm going to assume for somebody like me or a service provider, the call to action is going to be, let's have a chat. For somebody, for your business, Kimber-Lee, it would be check out our class schedules here, or check out our workshop schedules, or check out our retreats, whatever it is. But if you're still unclear, go over to my website anytime. There's usually what's going on in July. Here's holidays you can capitalize on. It's Clean Beaches Week. It's Ice Cream Month, right? So it's National it's a National Give Something Away Day, World Listening Day, like things you wouldn't even think of. And each time I'm just blown away when I do the research and find out, like the analytics, again, I'm kind of geeky that way, how much more effective email marketing is over any other kind of digital marketing that you can do. So that is my soapbox speech for today. You guys, if you're having any trouble figuring out what to do, how to get started, it's just my favorite thing to do. It's the most effective. Like, save your time, save your energy, be in control. But wait, I feel like I was an infomercial. But wait, there's more, but there really isn't. That's all there is to it. All right, you guys. So we're, if you have questions, if you're on the webinar, you can pop them in the chat, and I'll let Kimber-Lee know. She's going to have some really great thoughts today. I know she is. And if you're on the Facebook Live, you can put your comments on the Facebook Live. Let us know that you're listening. Let us know if you have any questions. And here we go. So Kimber-Lee Jacobsen was one of the first people I met when I moved down here to Westport, because I had to find my yoga community. And so here's what Kimber-Lee, her bio, her official bio. She's the owner of Be Light Yoga Center. From birth to present day, Kimber-Lee has created a life surrounded by movement, rhythm, and sound. A singer by trade, bringing sound and rhythm into spiritual practice has been part of her mission. Trained in 2014 by the Heron Dance Yoga and Meditation Studio, she received certifications in meditation, hatha, and vinyasa yoga. She is a certified energy medicine and sound healing practitioner, studying with Fairhaven Healing Arts since February of 2017. Kimber-Lee is indeed passionate in her teaching, loves finding new ways to make yoga accessible to all walks of life. And when I asked Kimber-Lee, what is your superpower? Kimber-Lee answered, doubtless manifestation. And people who know me well are going to be like, yep, it's no wonder they're friends. Like, manifestation is my thing. Today we're talking about mindful, meditative media, how essential it is as a yogi or healing arts professional to hold your authenticity and personal growth as a top priority. Kimber-Lee, I'm so excited that you're here today.
I don't think I've ever heard someone read my bio aloud in such a beautiful way. So that was
thank you, in mindful and meditative way. Yeah. So tell me about this mindful meditative. What is that? How did you come up with that? I love it.
So I've really been working, and I think you've been part of this process a bit, and especially with the accountability group that you ran, and kind of this searching of there's something about media and working with social media that doesn't feel entirely right or entirely comfortable for me. And I think as heart-centered entrepreneurs, or just anyone usually in the wellness realm, but not always, you can be a heart-centered entrepreneur and have a, tax business or an insurance business. But
absolutely,
when you're in this heart-centered place, I found it really difficult to be on a consistent schedule of putting things out there just to put them out there. So when I'm not kind of inspired and motivated to share and to share thoughts and to share things that are coming from my heart, I would have like a really hard time just creating a schedule and sharing things just because it's like a Monday or a Wednesday or a Friday. So I've started this experiment, I guess I would say, of how can I create media, and how can I market and let people know that I exist and my business exists in a way that comes truly from my heart. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of that came back to, which we talked about in the accountability group, was the mission statement. And it's like, what is my mission? And what is my intention behind everything that I'm doing? And for me, that really came to, creating a studio or holding space for a practice as the instructor that feels like home to others, and hold space for others to also go on that process of inquiry. So part of that is part of my mission, and part of my intention is always prioritizing time spent with others, face-to-face time spent with others, prioritizing listening to someone, prioritizing having a conversation and going down rabbit holes of yogic philosophy or our lifetimes of trauma or whatever it is we go down, but really prioritizing that face-to-face personal interaction above all else. So for me, when those things are priority, sometimes my schedule or my list of things that I need to accomplish, sometimes that takes a back seat for me. And in looking at that, so as I approach my everyday and I look at my list of things that I need to do, for me, I often come back to, okay, what is my mission and what will honor my mission today? And so sometimes for me, that's approaching media a little bit more in the moment, which I feel is not always the most conventional way. But it's been a really powerful shift. And so that's the concept of like a mindful meditative media in starting to spark creative things that come from that heart place.
So I love this because yes, your mission is everything. And it's just that phrase that grounds you to why you wake up every day and do what you need to do. And I know that you and I went through the whole process of here's what you need to do, and here's the next thing you need to do, and here's how you show up. And I've watched what you do, and I so admire that you're doing it this way from your heart with your mission. And when you do show up, like it just draws me in. I assume it draws other people in as well. I just want to listen to everything you have to say. I've been listening to your podcasts. I go to your classes, and something about showing up in your true integrity and your authenticity is so very attractive. And this is, for the work that I do, it's exactly what I want for people, is to show up as they are. So what's the kind of feedback that you're getting when you do show up that way?
It's really interesting. So here's just kind of a fun example that I just ran into recently of, for me, I think time management or energy management is really huge. And managing not just looking at it like time, but looking at how you manage it as energetic. So how am I managing my energy? What part of my energy do I want to give to every aspect of my life and business? So just a really fun example. I am not the kind of person who wants to devote that much energy to responding to messages and emails. I'm just not incredible at it, because again, the mission is like the face-to-face, the personal interaction. So I've decided that for me, about like 3 times a week of email response is what feels good. And I know that sounds crazy.
It sounds wonderful.
So what's fascinating is, at first, I really went back and forth with this for a long time, because I see how important it is to give people timely responses and to connect with them in that way. And so just recently, I've finally put into place an email response that's along the lines of, like, thank you so much for reaching out. And like, I really want to have a conversation with you. I also practice digital minimalism. And so I take, in whatever phrase it is, I take a look at my emails about 3 times a week, and I will absolutely respond to you. Please be patient, because I think it's really important to at least for me, to practice what I preach so much. And so in classes and in practice, I talk about like, just unplug. It's not going to be the end of the world, and people will be there for you when you come back. So it's a little rogue, but I do find if I, once I finally get on the phone with someone who's been reaching out, and I say, oh, I'm so sorry I didn't get back to you sooner. I really practice, setting firm boundaries around, my response time, because this is what my mission is. And they're like, wow, that's incredible. I really want to step away from my phone more. I should think about implementing that into my life. So it's like just really staying firm and like, this can work. And I'm just going to model what my beliefs are and see what happens. And it seems to work really well.
That's fantastic. And so I think the questions would be from other people who run businesses, right? Like I understand, and I admire that I know a person who, same thing. She has always, she changes it monthly. Her email response is, I check my emails very seldom, but here's something you should know about the energy, about, July, the moon, whatever, the energy. And here's something you should know. Like, she gives you some really kind of interesting things to think about, and then basically says, I might get back to you, but I might not, but in a very kind way. Not like you're not important, but like, let's connect real. And I admire that about you, Kimber-Lee. And I hope that it works, right? For as far as a business owner, it's a challenge.
It's a challenge, or it can be a challenge. And I think for a little while it felt like a challenge, but what's so wild is I work with energy so much. So when I kind of shifted into this practice of like, I guess, digital minimalism, I think it's a fun word. There's a great book.
I love it.
Digital minimalism, and it's just so good. But when I shifted into this, I went in with the mindset of, oh, this is going to be really challenging. Like, I'm not sure if this is going to work. And that's exactly the energy that I would pull in. It just felt really challenging. And then the interactions that I would have at first were really challenging. But as soon as I flipped the script about what's possible, and like, oh no, this isn't challenging. This is just my practice. This is just how I do business. Then things just shifted into not being so challenging. And it's just really interesting to see the kind of people that you'll attract more of, depending on the values that you set and then the values that you uphold. So just deciding what's important to you and really upholding that. So then you model that practice for everyone that you want to reach and everyone that you want to share your heart with.
So good. So that on the personal level is great. But I do notice that your website is updated, your schedule is updated, you're putting your events on Facebook. And so I'm going, I guess what I would ask you, what I would advise my clients, right? So I'm going to take a step back and talk about what I do, is the same thing, is that if digital media is sucking your energy and making you feel confused and chaotic and off your mission, then what I usually suggest is, let's make a plan so that you're spending 1 hour, maybe once a week, maybe twice a week, where you do what you need to do. You get in, post your events, post your whatever, do what you need to do to show up as a business, and then get out of there.
Yeah. Yeah. And
so do you set up time blocks for yourself, or how do you manage that part of it?
Yeah, I do. And something, I just want to throw this in there because it's so helpful. I think part of what the challenge was out of the gate is I didn't have anything to give those who were reaching out at first. It was just like, it might be a couple of days, I'll get back to you. And then realizing the value of a frequently asked questions page on my website, and how crucial that is, because there's so many questions that I get just ongoing, that are just similar questions over and over and over. And so it's it's helpful to just be able to have a tool that's like, oh, I know I'm going to get this question, so let me have this page to refer people to. I will absolutely get back to you, but there's a good chance that I might have answered your question here. So in the meantime, check out this page and I'll follow up with you in a couple of days. So I found
Perfect. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And because oftentimes if you know your business, you can kind of anticipate what people will be asking you. You know, for me, it's yoga, and I know they'll be asking about what kind of class is good for my ability level. So that goes without saying. Or what are your rates? What are your classes? And if, you know, for different kinds of services, you know, you start to get to know, okay, like start to understand your customer or your client, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to, you know, support or help those we're trying to reach. So I'm trying to shift back to what your question was, and I went on a fact.
Well, that was perfect, because that is the other thing that I tell people is exactly that, to always have, whether it's on your phone or a notebook that you keep in your pocket all of the time, is to any question that anyone has ever asked you, just write down the question. Don't answer it right then, but write down the question, write it down, because that will save you all of the time. Right? Like there's these time-saving things that take away from your energy. The other thing is, the scheduler. I've talked about the scheduler. What a time saver. Once somebody says, I mean, instead of going back and forth, can you meet next Tuesday at 11? No, that doesn't work for me. I have an appointment. How about 12? No, that doesn't work. Like, just have a calendar that everybody can look at. And in this case, have a page where it's frequently asked questions. Is it right for me? Here's my testimonials. Here's what other people have said about their experience with me, right? So if you have all of these resources, so if you're being mindful about your media, then you don't have to go in and have that energy sucking experience. So thank you for sharing that about the frequently asked questions.
Now it's kind of sinking back in. You had asked if I had blocked off time.
Mm-hmm.
So I do in my own way. I think what I do is a little bit scattered in the best way, because I love bouncing around and moving from task to task. So, you know, I have one area of my business that's working on a podcast, and I have one area of my business that's more the brick and mortar. And then I have the outreach portion of the business that's more working with rehab centers and, you know, like teaching chair yoga classes. And then another part of the business that's international and leading retreats. So depending on what the greatest need is, I kind of assess the night before or the morning of each day. So I kind of, this will segue into, I think, the importance of a home practice or some reflection time or inquiry time. But every morning I assess, like, okay, what is the greatest need? What needs my attention today? And then, you know, being able to look at the day and the time that I have and set aside, okay, for this amount of time, I will take a deep dive into finance, or for this amount of time, I'll take a deep dive into responding to emails, or trying to update the website to make sure it has all the information everyone needs, and things like that.
And so when you do that, do you actually write down how much time you're going to take? Do you write like, oh, I'm going to do this from 10 to 11? Or is it just kind of in your mind, is one question. You can tell I have trouble with time management myself. That's why I want to know what other people do.
For me, it's in my mind a little bit more. I'm not as, I don't tend to be a writer when it comes to structure.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to keep my writing more so for a creative outlet. So when I set aside time to write, for me, that writing instead of lists is just a creative free flow. Or if I'm going to sit down to write, like I have a document on my computer that's just called ramblings, and a lot of them I'll turn into some kind of post that I share from the studio or from my own page. Mm-hmm. But it just ends up being my thoughts. So for me, writing is more of a creative outlet. So I save it a little more so for that. But I'm reasonably good at setting boundaries. So if I say, okay, from 10 to 11, I'm going to do this, I'll set a timer or an alarm that will go off at 11.
Okay.
And then when I get to 11, I take a big pause and I assess and then kind of bring in a little bit of self-practice of sit with myself and get like really quiet, really still, and then assess, do I want to honor this time, or, what else needs my attention here? So it's a really interesting way to approach it, but I end up feeling really good about what I accomplish during the day when I let myself always be choosing. Because in any given moment, right, we're just constantly choosing and making choice. So for me, I find a little more peace of mind and a little less stress when it's always a choice and when I can always reassess the choice. So I find that to be really helpful practice.
That's amazing. That's so good. I think it's what a lot of people need to hear too, because a lot of people are forcing it, right? And they're making it hard and they're not letting the flow of doing, but it's also, I'm going to step back to what you said at the very beginning. It's all because you've set your mission and your intention. And so you have a very clear vision of what's happening, of where you're going.
Yeah.
So good. And is that what you would call your home practice and introspection? Is this part of it, of always choosing?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. I think home practice, it looks so different for everyone, but for me and for what my mission is, being in yoga and meditation, my home practice, I always want it to take the highest priority in my entire day. So my home practice for me, it looks like most of the time, of course, not all the time, but it looks starting my day with some kind of movement and meditation. And I think we hear a lot from other entrepreneurs and from other businessmen and women that it just feels like we give, right? And so it just feels like things suck our energy. And so prioritizing a home practice every day, or just even if it's like small amounts of time every day, it keeps us from getting to that burnout phase where then we might feel like we need to step way back and take all this time off because now we need to fill ourselves back up from all the energy that we feel like we've been sucked dry of. So that's what home practice is for me, is it's like declaring at the beginning of every day, and sometimes a couple times throughout the day, that declaring that this is the time I have to just receive, to be, and to, for me, it's drop into stillness and drop into a meditative place or silence. And it's in that place that I actually hear more clearly what my heart's intentions are. And so every day I'm reminded, why am I doing this? How do I want to do this? And how do I want to share this? And so dropping into that place every day is that reminder, so that when I go to act, my actions are coming from that place because I'm reminded of it every morning or every time I sit down to practice. And that is so important for me. And energetically, we talk about manifestation and abundance, right? So energetically, when I sink into that place and my actions are pure and they come from an intention that is for the greatest and highest good of everyone and everything, then it's like abundance just comes. And when I'm not in that place, it's like there's a big brick wall. So it's so important for me. And I find something actually recently that's been really helpful when there's so much business on the brain, which it's so easy to just have constant flowing ideas and possibilities and troubleshooting and all of that. I've started this practice. I'm not so consistent with it, but I've started this practice. It's actually from a book called The Artist's Way. Mm-hmm. But so it's the morning pages, and I'll do it any time of day. Mm-hmm. Anytime my mind is on complete overdrive and I have a hard time having a home practice, 30 minutes of just brain dumping onto a page. And that is actually where sometimes lists will come out for me.
Yeah.
So sometimes it might be like, have to fix this, have to do that, little blurb of creativity in there. And then it might be like, I don't know what I'm writing anymore. But 30 minutes, pen to paper, let everything come out. And then it's like, okay, I'm a bit more clear. Now let me give myself a moment of nothing and like really just sit with yourself, because we don't get that opportunity. And from that space, that's where I know, okay, this is my next action. This is what I should do. And so it's so important. And I think finding what that practice is for yourself, because like I said, it will look different. It might not be sitting in meditation for everyone. It might be a walk on the beach. It might be like sitting down and listening to music and doing nothing other than just listening to that music without the multitasking or, trying to accomplish things, but just sitting and like, or just being in some way.
So good. And I want to be mindful of your time, but I also have another question to ask before we finish up. But my reflection on what you're just talking about is conversations that I have, because I work with, right, yogis, energy healers, light workers. Often there's that, everything that you just talked about, right? Attracting the abundance, becoming still, becoming clear, and manifesting. But then there's that other part that you already talked about. Yes, you update your website. Yes, you have systems, right? So it's not that you have to have one or the other, which was a discussion I was having with another yogi recently. But it's both. It's understanding that you do have this business and you do have to like set up PayPal or set up Stripe or whatever it is. And you have to have your website and you have to answer emails or put out your schedules. But on the other hand, the home practice that you're doing gives you the guidance to do that while saving your energy.
Absolutely. In the home practice, it pulls you back into what your values are. And so then you can operate from those values. And for some, I tend to find like maybe yogis, we might have a little more resistance to setting up all of those things. But in your home practice, that's where you can look at that resistance and be like, okay, is this stubbornness or is this maybe against my values? And
or fear of tech, fear of the unknown. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so being able to see more clearly all of those things and then address it. So if it's fear or if it's stubbornness, it's like, okay, why am I resistant to this change or this growth? And also, I think it's huge. I mean, I'm not perfect at being fully prepared at having everything updated in an ideal amount of time. But it is nice when it is updated. Now I can do things for myself, like have a couple days, 48 hours of leeway time before I respond, because I have this place I can refer people to.
Mm-hmm.
So you're setting yourself up. It's like you create your sacred space that you can then sit in. So create the space so that you can have your own space.
Right.
Creating that online platform for people to sit in while they wait for your personal interaction. And so I totally get resistance to it because I don't love doing those things, but I'm always happy once I have. So,
fantastic.
But personal practice is huge, and I would love to talk to people more about that and what that can look like. And I'm happy to share any methods or techniques or practices that I use, whether it's just like how to meditate or how to sit and breathe, or how to start a yoga or meditation practice altogether. So I'm happy to share that.
Well, I'm writing this down. Home practice with Kimber-Lee. Before we finish up here, I need to ask you about your new podcast. I know we had talked about it a long time ago. It's blowing my mind. You have the best guests, and you and Forrest, right? You and Forrest, right, are just like just really just so attractive together, the energy and the you just show up and curious and in awe of the people that you're talking to. Tell us a little bit more where we can find it, where people can listen to you and tune in.
So the podcast is called Seeds of Awakening. It is, the concept behind it was that each conversation, we're so lucky. Like we're in such a lucky position that we get to have these wildly deep conversations with people so often. And so we wanted to be able to share that, because sometimes people don't feel like they can land in a safe community where that's allowed and welcomed. So we get together with these incredible humans, from herbalists to Ayurvedic practitioners to psychologists, yogis, meditators, all of it. And we take a deep dive into their background and into their practice, and we get to ask them a full spectrum of questions. So it's really incredible. I've loved every conversation we've had. It's so much fun. But you can find it anywhere that podcasts are available. So Spotify, which is really great. Also Apple Podcasts. I think it's on Stitcher as well. So anywhere that you can find podcasts, we're there, and you can just listen for free. It's so much fun.
It's awesome. I really suggest that people do that too. And gosh, it's been really great. I've been really learning a lot. My daughters love it too.
Oh, good.
Yes, good stuff. So good. So before we finish up too, let me see, I have to check my notes now because this was so good. So you have a special offer. It says here that if people send you their email, you will send them a free guided meditation.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I'll put that in the show notes. I'll give them your email address. It's Kimber-Lee at belightYogaCenter.com. Yeah? Kimber-Lee. And I'll write the spelling.
And you can either leave your email in a comment or shoot me an email, even better. And if you have any thoughts or questions about anything we've talked about, as we just kind of scratch the surface,
she'll get back to you in 3 days and tell you to go check out the frequently asked questions page.
I'll send you a guided meditation.
That would be a good autoresponder. That way you don't even have to be there. We can talk about that. So good, Kimber-Lee. I will see you soon in your studio or on the beach.
Perfect.
And let's see how I have to shut this off now. I'm just going to shut it all off, and I will talk to you later.
Okay, great. Bye.